"Don't spill your pint on it," said Jenny. "You trying to keep it in mint condition?" I asked, looking at the piece of paper, already stained with dark, dirty fingerprints. Looked as if a car mechanic had been handling it. The smudges could have been ink, I suppose. Yet there was something oily about them, and they were brown rather than black. "I don't want the ink to run," she said. If it is ink, I thought. The writing was similar in colour to the odd prints. She was right. It was already hard enough to read in the dimly lit public bar where we'd met to discuss this, even without the further hindrance of messy smudges. I struggled to focus on the writing, which looked like a stick insect had been dipped in ink then set loose on the page. Here's what it said. "On top of an eagle, I flew to the heights, so I became regal by stowed away flight." "So what do you make of it?" she asked at last. I sat back and sipped my pint. The craft beer's head left a froth moustache on my upper lip. I licked my lips, then wiped off the residue with a handkerchief I kept in the top pocket of my navy blazer. I glanced at Jenny. She smirked at my fastidiousness. I pretended not to notice, then replied, "It refers to the story of how the wren became the king of the birds by hitching a ride on the eagle." "Oh, you're good," said Jenny with a smile. "The Golden Bough?" "Nah, Wikipedia." "That pint looks nice, by the way. I might get one for myself." "Let me," I said. "No, I'll get it. Want another?" I still had over 3/4 of mine to go, so I declined her offer. As she went to the bar, I thought of the Golden Bough and how it related to the upstart wren. Certainly seemed to fit the burden of the song. "And what will you do there, says Milder to Mulder? Oh, we may not tell you, says Fessel to Foe. We'll hunt the Cutty Wren, says John the Red Nose. We'll hunt the Cutty Wren, says John the Red Nose." Jenny Underwood's smoky voice broke into my thoughts. "There's a theory that the wren came to represent Richard II during the Peasants' Revolt of 1381, she said, dumping her pint on the table. "That notion is at best questionable," I replied. "The ceremony of the Cutty Wren dates back to Neolithic times. The sacrifice of the king, the death of the year king in winter, its rebirth in spring." "Indeed," I said. "That seems to be what your scrap of paper's saying. Where did you find it?" "It dropped through the letterbox just after I got back from the Cayley." "That wasn't the only thing that happened." "Well, there was that guy who..." "Forget him. I have." "No. I meant when I got home. As I opened the door, I could see a dark shape flapping about in the hall. It shot out of the front door, only just missing my face. A bird that must have got inside and panicked. Caused havoc in the kitchen. Salt all over the work surface." "A wren?" I wondered. "No. I caught a glimpse of white feathers against the black. A magpie. Anyway, after I'd shut the door again, bit shocked to be honest with you, Ian, the paper had dropped through the letterbox. But it got me thinking. Magpies are well known for nicking shiny objects. Maybe this rhyme was the first clue to some weird treasure hunt." Remembering what she said, I can't help thinking of Rossini's opera, La Gazza Ladra, the servant girl hanged for the crime of the thieving magpie. "Right," I said, somewhat sceptically. "That certainly sounds unusual." "You think that's freaky? I haven't told you what happened the next morning. Coins under my pillow." "First a magpie, then the tooth fairy," I said dryly. I hope you remember to throw some of that salt over your shoulder. Sneer all you like, Ian. They were farthings, minted in 1951. 3 of them, all with a wren engraved on them. Probably fetch a pretty penny, I said, shivering despite myself. Well, I reckon there's something at the end of this that's going to fetch a damn sight more. I should have told her to take those 3 farthings to the nearest antique shop, get them valued, and have done with it. Instead, I replied, well, that's as may be, but we're still no closer to finding it. That's what I thought when it turned up, she said. But later I looked inside my car glove compartment and found this. She reached into her handbag and produced another scrap of paper with similar markings. She handed it to me. It read, "But now I must pay, I must bear the crown, on St. Stephen's Day to lie underground." The situation was starting to make me feel rather uneasy. I wonder if it was having the same effect on Jenny. "How did it get into your car?" I asked, wondering why her informant couldn't have just posted it into her university pigeonhole. In the light of what later happened, it would have been apt, given the pigeon's legendary homing instinct. "I suppose I must have left it unlocked. The central locking's faulty and I don't always check." "All the same, you weren't even driving that night. That means..." She nodded. "Yes, sure. Creeps me out a bit that whoever gave me the paper knows where I live and which is my car. But I think I'm onto something interesting here, Ian. It all makes sense now. The clue to each message is hidden in the one before, so the second message, stowed away in the car glove compartment, that's what made me look for it." "You found it anyway." "Have you seen the state of my car?" I hadn't, but I could guess what she was driving at. "Receipts, post-its, parking tickets, other random bits of paper. I could easily not have found it." "Okay," I said. "So how about the third message? Where's the clue for that one in the second? Is the third one underground then?" She puffed out a mouthful of air. Her breath smelled sweet. I couldn't help wondering if mine did. "Could be anywhere if that was the clue," she said. No, can't imagine it's that." "Something to do with the crown, maybe." "Bears the crown," I said. "The wren loses the crown at that point in the story. I'd have thought maybe it bares its head when it loses the crown," she suggested, "and bears it somewhere else to yield it in sacrifice." "But it loses its head as well, I think." "Crown can mean head. Think of Jack falling down and breaking his crown in the nursery rhyme. This is getting us nowhere." I nodded, taking another pull on my pint. This was thirsty work. Could it be something to do with St. Stephen's Day, I wonder? Of course! The Feast of Stephen! Good King Wenceslas! Christmas carols! "Which tree bears the crown?" she asked, grabbing my wrist so tight. It hurt. "Of all the trees that are in the wood." "Ah," I said. "And there's one on the campus, right outside the faculty building." Maguire and Malone, the northern folk bind me, the middle of the town. That's where you'll find me. The previous 2 had been child's play compared to this. We'd found the message in a bottle, about the size of the kind used for miniatures, tucked under the glossy but painfully prickly leaves of the large holly bush next to the door we used every day to go to work. Somewhat overgrown, I might add. And Jenny made a mental note to have a word with the head of grounds maintenance team to give it a long overdue trim when the spring term started in a few days' time. Smarting from slight but painful injuries sustained in my efforts to extract the hidden missive, I was inclined to agree with her. On the other hand, if they had cut the bush, the gardeners might have raked the insignificant-looking bottle out and thrown it away, along with the rest of the litter trapped under its fibrous stems and spiky leaves. Then again, that might have been the best thing.